Well, good afternoon, SLAE family, and happy Tuesday, everybody. I am so excited to be here with you today. And one of my favorite things is when we have an awesome author, which we do today. I'm really thrilled to introduce you today to Verda La Rue. Verda is a brilliant author. She wrote this fantastic book, which I highly recommend, called Living in the Solution: Discovering Your Authentic Self. And you'll see all my little million notes and bookmarks and stuff all over this. Verda is a trained therapist. In addition, she has a master's in psychology, and she has been through recovery of codependency herself. So we're going to dive into her wisdom, her book. And I always like to start off with a fun fact. She used to be in a rock and roll band too. So she's kind of covered the gamut of everything. So first and foremost, welcome, Verda. So happy you would take the time to be here.
Thank you so much, Leanne.
And your book is just amazing. And it really focuses on so many different aspects of codependency. But I know there are people who may not have heard that term or fully understand exactly what that term means. So would you mind taking a minute, and we'll kick it off today by you defining that so we have context for your book and your writing.
Okay, surely. Codependency is an addiction. It's a process addiction. So, when we are addicted to chemicals, that's of course a chemical addiction to alcohol, drugs, what have you. Of course, there's always food. That's a chemical addiction too, but it's considered a process addiction for some reason. Codependency is a process addiction. It's being addicted and attached uncontrollably to dysfunctional relationship processes. So, the codependent doesn't go marry the banker that shows up with flowers in one hand and groceries in the other. She goes on Skid Row and matches up with an alcoholic, addict, married cheater, something that she's got the problem and the drama and the problem to manage. It's not her problem. She's got problems, but that one's not her problem. But she incorporates other people with problems and tries to fix them, help them. That's how the codependent started out, being the wife of the alcoholic and such. In my book, if I could just say, this is how I ended up defining it in my book: a repetitive pattern of self-abandonment and an unconscious emotional addiction to dysfunctional relationship processes in an attempt to gain a sense of power and control.
Amazing. Now,
Yeah.
that is an addiction to really unhealthy relationships. And you talk a lot about in the book, giving up yourself in order to feed those. And one of the things I loved was you made an analogy about a drug addiction, and you made an analogy about a control addiction with codependency. Can you take a second and explain to everybody how that works? Because it was brilliantly written.
Oh, thank you so much. That was my little stroke of brilliance. That is what my contribution was, that I recognized one day that these are our processed drugs. We are huffing on the control crack pipe, basically, when we are using control in our relationships, or on the victim pipe. Oh my gosh, I've used the victim drug myself for years. That's just where you present as a victim to anybody, as a manipulation, like, don't expect anything out of me. I've had a hard life and I can't do anything right anyway. So just, be nice to me and don't pick on me. I can't do anything. I would present this way so people would leave me the hell alone and treat me with kid gloves and treat me special. Little did I realize I was really, abandoning myself. I really needed their love and approval and all that, but I had to deny that to them and stuff. So codependency is a very multifaceted, fascinating phenomenon, really. I mean, some call it a disease, some call it an addiction, some call it a mental disorder, but it's not a mental disorder. That is clearly wrong, because you can recover from it. You can't recover always from mental disorders. And that's the difference.
Now, you also talked in the book quite a bit about that need for control, or that need to do this, and it's stemming from people's childhood. So can you take a second and maybe give an example or talk about how you address that in the book?
Certainly. Yeah, a lot of dysfunctional family systems have a lot of, chaos, violence, even heartbreak, disappointment, abuse, verbal abuse. And so children grow up in this atmosphere, and their emotional needs are not getting met because of the problem, the drunk in the room or what have you. Or it could be a mental disorder. It's not always a chemical problem. One parent could be mentally ill, or they could have gone to prison, or they're somehow missing or taken out of the fold. And the child just grows up kind of surviving, kind of raising themselves, raising their parents. The parent, they'll go clean up dad and call his job, and the dad's got the flu again, taking care of business, covering up. So the guy, say it's a girl or a man, either one, both kids get it. So he goes out into the world, and now everybody that he meets becomes like somebody he's got to get approval from, or he's got to impress or save or rescue, or be their shining star somehow, and try to get that love and approval. But not everybody loves and approves of us, do they? That's just real life. And so they're constantly deeply wounded, rewounded again, from looking for love in all the wrong places, essentially. And what this book is really about, and what the core of codependent recovery is nurturing and becoming true to your own core self, validating that self first and foremost. So let's say if you play the piano beautifully, you just say, oh, that was a beautiful concerto you just played there. You tell yourself and your inner child, of course, how well you did, how beautiful a job. And that way you don't have to run after that validation to others like a hungry addict going, hey, did you see the thing? Did you think I played good? How'd I do? And so it's like, yeah, they might compliment you and that always feels good, but that's just like the icing on the cake. The real cake is that I already know I did a great job on that concerto. You see what I mean? Yes. And so that my self-confidence is there. And so it's about really changing the relationship that we have with ourselves first and foremost, and probably totally.
So if somebody, and then, I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
No, go ahead. Well, then by extension, our relationships with others change just by changing the one with ourselves. That's what I wanted to say.
So when someone, they grow up in a dysfunctional atmosphere, whether it's, there's all the different examples you just ran through, but they grow up in a dysfunctional atmosphere, then they seek that consistency of finding some situation that's similar so they can be that same person, and they keep going to these dysfunctional relationships. But there is an entire program. It's actually a 12-step program that helps people. And I'd love for you to take a minute and share with everybody how that works in an encapsulated version.
Surely. It's called Codependent Anonymous. Mm-hmm. And it was born out of the Alcoholics Anonymous program. It was typically in the early days considered to be for the wives of the alcoholics, of course, or the children too, although then they got their own adult children of alcoholics. But so codependents were considered the wives of in the initial thing. And then we became aware that, wait a minute, we were codependent from the get-go, from being raised up in our dysfunctional families where we were maybe parentified and had to cook dinner for all our siblings and our parents because they couldn't function for some reason. And so, so we are, we're survivors, we're very industrious survivors, but maladapted for healthy relationships. And I know I've worked with codependents even before I knew what codependency was. And they would come up again, do you want me to do your work for you? Do you want me to help you? Can I make your food for you for the buffet? And they would ask me for things that I didn't need or want or anything, but they were trying to, become my best buddy or whatever. They were trying to, I don't know, save me or help me or something so that, you can be grateful. There's a whole chapter in here about codependent giving and receiving. Did that surprise you? That there's codependent giving, which a lot of what we do is codependent. If I don't get them a wedding present, what will the neighbors think? What will my mother say? We're always worried about what other people are going to think instead of, hey, I don't do weddings. I don't believe in it. I'm not getting squat. That might be the truth to yourself. but you keep saying, oh, what will they think of me? They'll think I'm a cheapskate, or I forgot it or something, So let me prove one more time to somebody else how good I really am, even though I hate this. That would be codependent giving. And the tell for that is the resentment afterwards. Oh, I stayed there all night and the guy never shut up and I had a rotten time. I come back with a lot of resentments. And the truth is, when you really give altruistically from the heart, there's no resentment. That you feel just pure love. That's all there is. Like consider the mother nursing her baby, pure love of that giving. The mother never looks down and goes, boy, do you owe me big time now.
No, I've never seen that. That's for sure.
But codependency is, relationships are transactional. So if I
love what you just said, that relationships are transactional. That is
right. So that if I went over and helped you move, then when I move, it's like, boy, she better get over here and help me move because I helped her move. That kind of thing.
Amazing.
Always keep it score. Always going, hey, I loaned her $10 and now she can't loan me $10. What's wrong with this picture? That kind of thing.
And the other thing is that there's a lack of boundaries in this situation too. And that kind of touches with the resentment you talked about. So someone won't keep their boundaries, and then they will do what is outside of what they really feel like they should be authentically doing. And then they're mad about it on top of it.
Right. Exactly. Or their boundaries are not honored. Okay. And so they steamroll over their own boundaries. So they self-abandon and steamroll over like if they said, hey, I'm not washing the dishes, I've done it every week, now every day this week, it's your turn this time. And the person just goes, okay, whatever, but they never do it. Okay, so the codependent goes and does it for them. They function for them, even though it's against their grain. They wanted them to do it and everything. And I always tell people, when you want somebody to do something, stop doing it for them. They'll never function as long as you're doing it. Never. But boundaries are interesting. They didn't exist in my family, and in a lot of dysfunctional families, the parents may have had boundaries, but the children never had anything like that. But so we grow up and we don't know how to say no, and we just keep saying yes, and we're dishonest about it, and we're just trying to survive, but we don't know that we have the right to say, you know what, I don't do wedding showers or whatever, that baby shower, that's just something I don't do. But thanks for thinking of me. Now I can be authentic and honest and tell my truth about it, and not have to go, oh, I've got 15 people to meet at 6 o'clock. Lie. The old codependent lying. The lying drug, by the way, it's one of the coded drugs. Hello. The shame drug, so there's a lot of different codependent drugs at play. The lying drug, but the control drug is big. The victim drug is huge, because the truth is, as children, we were true victims, of our needs were not being met, and sometimes worse, we were abused. Some of us, and so all we know how to do is to survive the best our brains can manufacture a way to. Sure. But we never learned that we have a right to say, hey, don't ever put your hands on me again, or don't ever talk to me that way again. Don't call me those names. Yeah. Kids don't have that vote, oddly. At least in my family, we didn't. Now, in a healthy family, they would, and they'd say, okay, your message taken, for a healthy, receiving, validating parent. But in dysfunctional families, it's just like, don't speak until you're spoken to, don't disrespect your elders, or whatever rules of operation they were working on. And so pretty soon you just kind of lose yourself. The codependent loses their authentic self and goes out and tries to play all these roles and become whoever anybody wants them to be, so that they can survive one more time.
And then even if they do all the things and they get the external validation, there's no happiness in it though, correct?
No, they're exhausted from all that functioning. They're exhausted all the time. They're always complaining how tired they are. I had to run to the store, then I had to run over to the cleaners, and I had to go run and pick up the kids, and I had to do this, I had to do that. And they had to do it like they're running a squirrel wheel, and they can't stop it because they're so compulsed to do everything possible for everybody that nobody has any needs mentioned or not mentioned. And then they feel a sense of purpose, that I'm taking care of the whole universe, and I am God of the universe, by the way. I'm taking care of everybody. It makes them feel secure and safe. As a child, there was no safety, no escape, and no safe place. So that's why they keep returning to that drug of manipulating and controlling and taking on somebody's problems and making it theirs. Like one thing I used to do, for example, of that is when somebody would lie to me, it really was appalling to me, right? Like a boyfriend or something, I'd catch him in a lie. And then I would think, how stupid does he think I am? I would make his lie be about how stupid I was, or about how smart, or about, I would definitely make it all about me, And then I would say, if he really loved me, if he really cared, then he wouldn't lie. So I would make that be a condition of he doesn't care because he's a liar. Finally, and through recovery and my sponsor's help and just living, I came to realize that, hold on here, this guy has a lying problem.
Yeah.
Just like if the guy has a zipper problem, it's still his problem. It has nothing to do with you. And then I might tell him, I noticed you have a lying problem. You might want to get some help for that. And that way I didn't get hooked in. I didn't bite the big fish hook, that would just nail me about that.
Yeah.
And so I still can't completely wrap my mind around all that, although I understand it intellectually, but I mean, that's what I mean. The multi-layers just go deeper and deeper and deeper in this. It's just fascinating study. Absolutely.
Really interesting because, in the situation that you talked about where it's a spouse or a child of someone who has an addiction, this comes, but you also talked about it didn't have to be something that severe. It could be, emotional abandonment or abuse or something. It doesn't have to be an addiction that will trigger this. Is that?
That's true. That's true. It has many forms. And I mean, the typical ones are addiction or mental illness. Okay. But sometimes people are just, like they're just workaholics. That's a big reason why nobody's home. And the kid's, raising himself. He's got everything money could buy, but nobody's home, and those that could develop codependency because their emotional needs are not getting met, and it's an emotional need met, not the toy need met thing. It can be that for whatever belief system they have, whatever, that the child is just not loved and just not cared for, and just kind of I mean, you read the atrocities from kept in a cage to trotted out, to perform for people like the neighbors or whatever. Oh, Johnny's going to play the piano now. Sort of like used as a mascot, if you will, like trot him out in the ball game to entertain everybody and make them laugh or something. So children are often used that way. And then they have to comply. Maybe they don't want to do it, but they have to do it. They don't get a vote. Like I said, they're a kid. The adult's this tall. I'm this tall. I'll do what they say. Compliance. And we learn how to comply throughout our life too. And I used to do it. My boyfriend would say, "Where do you want to go eat?" And I go, "I don't care. I like anything. I don't care." And then he'd go, "Okay, well, let's go get Chinese or whatever." And then I'd be eating it. I go, "This is the worst food I have ever eaten." Okay. And he'd say, "Well, I asked you where you wanted to go and you said you didn't care. So I just chose." And, just little teeny weeny awakenings as we go day by day of living in the solution, just like, oh yeah, I did get to say, why didn't I?
So
And that's when changing it up. Okay, what do I want? I don't even know. But Verda, let's check it out. What do you want, little Verda inside me? What does the little kid really want? And so I tap in, and so I go, well, I feel like this or that thing. So I'll put my head on the chopping block now. I mean, that's just an example of it, but it comes in many forms, but that's just one, that actually a real life example too.
Well, in that case, either the person is not expressing what they want or failing to express something that they really don't want. But
Uh-huh.
either way, it sounds like you're saying they're doing it to get the approval and confirmation from that other person, but then they're completely unhappy
It
anyway.
has so many, you are brilliant. You're picking it up. It has so many layers of drug use. It's uncanny. For one, you're like, okay, you're the boss. You decide. I'm not, buddy, I'm not going to decide. You're the boss. You're a big man. You decide. So it's got that people pleasing, self-abandonment thing. Like I can't decide. I can't function. You function. And so, and then it's got you get to blame. Oh, this is horrible food here. How come you pick this horrible food? It's a blaming, because I gotta use the blame drug if I'm codependent. It's
all your good fault. Drug there, yeah.
Horrible food, and it's ruined my whole day. This rotten meal. I mean, it goes to extremes. You see it can go off the Richter scale. And then it's also not being accountable. It wasn't my choice of the horrible food. It was your choice. That kind of thing. So I'm clear. This is your mess. What he did, not seeing my part in it and that kind of thing. And that's what the kind of levels of awareness we get to and start working at in recovery.
So they got Chinese food with a side of victim and blame for dessert.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
What's so interesting, I mean, look, if you're listening and watching this book is awesome. You should really get this book. What was so fascinating to me was the parallel of, other addictions, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, et cetera, because at the end of the day, those can be physically destructive. If you're an alcoholic or you're a drug addict, you can destroy your body, you're destroying your environment and a billion other things of your family relationships. You're taking that physical toll. But with the codependency, what was interesting is exactly what you said. It's that same driving addiction. And at the end of the day, you can't be happy. So it's just wild. And immediately I could see so many things. I have someone in my life who is an alcoholic, and I was reading the book. I'm like, oh my God, that's the whole family. Like they're all in this crazy codependency cycle trying to deal with it. And it's tragic. So having somebody like you articulate it and walk them through, this is what you're doing, this is why you're doing it, here's how you can stop doing it. It really gives someone the opportunity to have a life and have joy and fulfillment and all that stuff.
It does. It helps them reframe and get aware of what is mine and what's not mine. Codependents don't have a sense of that. They just jumped up and functioned. If dad couldn't stand up and tie his shoes, the kid was down there tying dad's shoes. So he functioned as a young kid for everybody. And so they don't know that they have a vote in that. And if when they get in recovery, they choose like, I don't think I'm gonna just jump up and function for them. Now, if they want to ask me for help, they can use the muscles and work that muscle and do the asking. And then I can decide if I want to help them or not. And I probably will, because I'm a nice guy, but I'm not going to just jump in there, with my red paintbrush and go, your painting needs a little red blob right here. That's what helping without asking permission is about, and they're like, hey, hands off, man, this is my painting, get away, the codependent over helper.
Circumstances, it seemed like, the person will go out and seek these really destructive relationships. But then it also seemed like there are circumstances where the person might get into a relationship that could be functional, but they're bringing their, what's the word?
Baggage from the past.
They're bringing their patterns to that relationship. So even if they get in a relationship that could be healthy, because they haven't resolved these personal issues, they end up kind of destroying it in some ways and taking out what they're looking from, taking away what they were seeking in the relationship if it could have happened.
Exactly. In fact, that's the point right there where a lot of women enter recovery, is when they realize, oh my gosh, I have sabotaged this. God knows why. I can't even figure it out. I don't know myself. I'm terrified of myself, and what the hell am I doing? And I need help. And they get so mangled that they get willing to walk into the rooms of Codependents Anonymous, which is the biggest surprise, because it sounds like it's a torture chamber with all the dread of going, and yet it's like it's this big fellowship of laughing, free people, emotionally recovered, and they're emotionally sober. Like the alcoholic is sober from the alcohol. These folks are sober emotionally. So they have healthy relationships. They know
Yeah.
all about how to set boundaries. They work the steps. They know themselves. They honor themselves and love and take care of themselves and advocate for themselves. It's like a different breed. It's a life changer, big time. Incredible.
Really remarkable. And not
Yeah.
only do they take themselves back and their joy and their power and all that good stuff, but in the case of being in, it's like sometimes it was a relationship that the person is bringing the dysfunction to, but sometimes they go straight for the most dysfunctional person that they can.
Right.
But in
Right.
that case, it seemed like from the book that when they are going it, they're actually enabling that person to get worse. And I would love for you to take a minute and talk about, empowering someone with a problem or enabling someone to go deeper in their problem.
Right. Well, true. The codependent will enable, like, say, an alcoholic or a drug addicted spouse, let's say, and they do it partly because the alcoholic or addict is very manipulative. If you don't do it, I'm going to beat you up or whatever. It could be that, but they don't leave. They don't realize that, hey, this isn't working out for me today. I think I'm going to choose something different for me. I'm worth a little more than this. They get caught up and they actually feel the guilt and shame and blame, much like they did as children for every quarrel and fight and craziness that went on around them. Kids incorporate that. They incorporate the anger inside them, the shame inside. Oh, shame is, they just suck up the shame, even though it's not their shame, never was, but they carry it around for years and years. Code recovery really, really works on that shame. But yeah, they say in recovery centers or circles that codependents will literally love an alcoholic literally to death because they turn the blind eye. They just let them sit in there and pickle their livers or whatever. When you see long-term marriages, you see that pattern sometimes. Or one will be working coda and the alcoholic still comes and goes on his binge drinking, whatever pattern. And there's acceptance, and that's not mine. That's your problem. That's your side of the street. You screw it up. That's your wreckage. I'm over here with my support group. There's other people that live like that. It's possible to. I don't know how. I was married to an alcoholic, my first marriage, and it was rough. And I was the biggest codependent walking the land. And I hated drinking. And I would take the bottles and throw them across the room, and they'd crash under the bed. And I go, that's what I think of that bottle. I was really young too. And then, my husband cried. He sat and cried when I broke the bottle. And so then I go, well, I got some money. I'll go get you some more money. Poor codependent me. Enabling the alcoholic to death is the point. We don't know better. We don't know what to do. It's a horrible way to live.
Well, I tell everybody, it's not only a brilliant book, but you won't put it down. I mean, I took so many different kinds of notes and I have all these things stuck in the book.
It's so glad you like it.
And Verda, bless your heart for putting it into a context where everybody can learn, where we can pick up something like this and understand, what is happening. Because if someone's never, I've heard of codependency, but I've never seen anybody really explain it like this. And where would someone get it? So this book is available on Amazon, though. They can order it on Amazon, right?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you, Leanne, for doing what you do for SLAE.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's a wonderful thing for acknowledging women.
Oh, well, hey, women are awesome. I mean, that's easy, right?
Yes. Oh, and I wanted to mention too, there are some Facebook groups that I run. One has over 20,000 members, and it's a Codependent in Recovery, and come out and join it. It's a real high level, good recovery group, and we have meetings twice a week and so forth. And so my support is to the virtual community of men and women. But I love your mission, Leanne. I love what you do, and you do it so very well. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, Verda, what we're going to do is we will put a link there's two ways people watch this. Some people are going to watch it on Facebook and some people watch it later on YouTube. So we will go
I'll put the
ahead.
link.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll put the link on each one to get the book, and we'll
Mhm.
put the link for your Facebook group too. So if they want to join the Facebook group, they can, stay in contact. And then if it's okay with you, if anyone wants to leave any comments or questions, would you be okay, just responding to whatever people would post with this?
Sure.
Okay,
Do
wonderful.
that.
Well, you're just great. I thank you so much. The book again is called Living in the Solution. Here it is for you. Yep, there we have both sides. It is just fantastic. And, it may be something, if you're learning, that will help you personally, or maybe something that will help you to, understand what's going on with a friend or family member, or maybe something you want to give to somebody. That's a possibility too, all of the above. But again, thank you, Verda La Rue. Thank you for tuning in here today and
All
sharing
right.
your wisdom, and for taking your experience. Most importantly, people go through difficult times in life. Some people don't recover, some people recover, but only the special people recover and then take everybody with them. And that's what you're doing, which is awesome.
Thank you so much.
So thank you very much. If you enjoyed this, please leave a little comment or a little thumbs up or wherever you're tuning in, and let's give Verda some love. And thank you all for being here. We will see you live next Tuesday. Everyone have an outstanding week. Take care.
Bye-bye.